last time we were talking, we went through building out a referral network and how to approach doing that. And one of the parts that you guys both continually reiterated was the whole concept of keeping in creative communication, creative contact, both with prospective clients or customers, but also with refers, and changing how you're doing that across the A's to the C's and the different types. And I'm looking at my list of people in the CRM, and I'm trying to figure out how to apply creative contact and creative follow up with people. And I'm hoping you guys can help me out.
Like, okay. Well, there's a couple. I think there's a couple things to keep in mind. One is that what if you're doing this to get free? What we found is all we want to do are talk to the highest and best prospects at that moment, and so for us, we rank everybody A, B, and C. A is the most probable we're going to get business out of this person or do business with this person. B's we're not quite sure, and C's we're just not at all confident. We'll just lay them off to marketing. Everybody gets the same marketing. Every type of contact gets the same marketing. We send it once a month. That's it. No more, no less. That's it. It's very automated. And each of those types of contacts would get the same type of message. You don't have to create something totally unique for everybody. We have this pretty much the same body, but a little different intro because it's a different type of target, and a little different call to action, if you want to call it that. And by the way, too, the things we send out are absolutely non-salesy. Well, let me ask you: do you like to get salesy emails?
No.
No, nobody does. And so what you want is you don't want people to unsubscribe. So what you want to do is the whole process, or the whole idea here, is just to keep you on their mind. And so when it comes up, because if this is a massive referral network, these are your bird dogs. And so you want to be on their mind, just kind of in the back of their mind. And so when something comes up in business or non-business, they're at a cocktail party, dinner party, kids soccer game, whatever, conversation comes up and they go, you know what, you should really talk to Ian. I just heard from him. How many times, Chuck, have we heard also that when they get an email, they go, oh man, you must have been reading my mind because I was just thinking about you. I'm glad you emailed because it prompted me to call you. It happens regularly. And so anyway, so then now it's easy to send those emails every month. You just, filter out who you're going to send, or have it already predetermined, create the email and hit send, and away it goes. But the other part is who you talk to. And I only want to talk to two types of people. Well, three. One is when my phone rings and somebody's buying. I want to talk to those. Those go right to the top. The other thing that I'm doing is every day I have in my CRM, I already have a predetermined filter, and I go, give me all the A's that are set to be called today. And so I hit that, I see the list, I call through those. I don't scan around. Like most people will just kind of pick through their list, and it is absolutely not industrialized. So we want this industrialized system so that we can contact a lot of the right people. So if they're a great contact and they're set up for tomorrow, I'm not calling them today. It's going to come up on my list tomorrow. When I call all those A's, I run out. That's it. I'm not calling B's and I'm not calling C's. What I'm doing is calling people that maybe I don't know yet. So I'm calling what we call not yet contacted, which you probably have a bunch of those in your CRM too. And so one of the things that there's a problem in this process about who do you call today, because most people will put things in their calendar. They have calendar, and what happens is if you go on vacation, you're sick, you don't get to everybody, you turn the page. Basically, you go to the next day, and what happens to the people that you missed yesterday? they a lot of those in the day before, the day before, and the day before. Now you got to go into your calendar. You've got to move all the calendar dates, and that takes hours. It's like, so what we do is the only thing we put in a calendar are things that are etched in stone. Like you and I agree that we're talking tomorrow at 1 o'clock or Wednesday at 3 or whatever the case is. That's the only thing that goes into our calendar. And but then how do you know who to contact? And so what we found is that uh, that was we couldn't find a CRM that would do that because basically it means that it's revolving. So somebody you talk to today, if I want to talk to the A's in 30 days, just like I want to email everybody every 30 days, it has to somehow revolve without me saying it's got to come back around to call in 30 days without me putting it into the calendar. And we just couldn't find any CRM out there that does that or would do that. We had programmers, we had different CRMs, the whole shooting match, and it just wouldn't work. So we kicked them all to the curb and go, you know what, we're just going to create our own. And we're going to eliminate all the crap that they put in their CRM, and we're going to put in the stuff that we found to build this massive referral network. And it worked. So we ended up building our own. But does that make sense? It's so I don't know what CRM you're running, but if you're running the typical one, it's hard to make that work. Um, you have to put them in your calendar or have some other way that your CRM works that it comes up every 30 days. Like we differentiate between a calendar event and just a regular event. Like
Hmm.
if we see, oh, here's just the people up, because the people, let's say you and I said, oh, we're gonna talk at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Okay, that's a calendar item. Other people might have said, hey, you know what? Why don't we connect sometime next week? And you put them in a what we call an event for sometime next week. Let's say Tuesday. We go just arbitrarily Tuesday 1 o'clock, and so you're going to have all this list of stuff. When I hit the button that says what's going on today, I have calendar items at the top, and then I've got all these other people. So all these other people are flexible. I can talk to them today, tomorrow, the next day, morning, afternoon, whatever. Unless they go, oh, I want to, let's talk Tuesday afternoon. Okay, so I'll put them in Tuesday sometime in the afternoon. But the one that is at the top of my list, calendar items are always at the top of my list. The other things that are events are below that. So I always want to make sure that what's at the top is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And so if I may have me rolling through my day and suddenly something will pop to the top because it's like, oh, it's 1 o'clock. Uh, so I don't know, that got a little detailed, but the thing is, we use the word industrialized here. If imagine a factory. A factory it's got machines that do these things a certain way. It gets mixed, it gets assembled, it gets riveted, whatever the case is, as it's going along. And that's what we do here with our contacts. And it's unlike any system I've ever heard of before. Most of them, again, go back. They go, well, who should I call today? They'll have a list in Excel, or maybe they have a CRM, and they kind of scroll through the contacts or look at the calendar, and it's just imagine if you were trying to put a factory together like that. It just it's just not efficient. It's not powerful enough. It's too labor intensive. It just doesn't make any sense. So we go, all right, we understood the system, and then we built a CRM to do it. So does that help, or do you have a specific question there that might help you and it might help everybody else? Because I know I covered a lot of ground. Like,
But
Yeah.
can I touch
No,
base on,
that is.
let me
Yep.
touch base on just one thing that I think is super important. What a lot of people do is you know, what we talked about is when you're done calling your A's, don't start calling your B's and C's. That's fruitless. And don't start cold calling merchants. Start calling on prospective refers. Always so you take all the thought out of it, right? So I just come in, I call my A's for the day, and then I start calling all my not yet contacted. That's it. A's not yet contacted. A's not yet contacted. That's the only thing you do, because you need to expand that list, because every depending on what industry what industry you're in, what you're doing, whatever it is, you have formulas, right? You can go, well, for every 100 refers I have in my database, I know I'm going to get X amount of business. You start seeing trends. You start seeing this. So What do I want to do? Continue to call the same refers, the B's and C's over and over again that aren't sending anything? Or do I need to go out and search for more? So always go to the not yet contacted. Just, I would never ever call a B or a C unless I was returning a call.
Right. Yeah. You know, you might call it B because the only reason I would call it B is that they're a new contact, and maybe I had one conversation with them, and I go, I don't know if they're an A or a C, because really they fall into two buckets, A's or C's eventually, and B's are like I don't quite know yet, but I'm going to know because like what I'll do with typically what I'll do with somebody I haven't talked to before, I'll have a conversation, and I go, I don't know. But I'll go, hey, let's touch base next week. Good. So now maybe they're a B. They're an A or a B. Those are the only ones I'm going to call. But the only so I'll call a B only if it's like my second call with them. And then at that point, after that call, they're an A or C. So then going forward, but most of those, Chuck is right on. You don't, as you're rolling through your thousands of contacts, you don't you end up not having Bs. You shouldn't have Bs unless they're relatively new to you and you're still trying to sort them out. That's how I think of Bs.
Okay. And
Did that help?
yes, yeah, it offers some good structure. When it comes to the, and the approach is not sending salesy messages. And so when it comes to like the marketing, one a
Yeah.
month marketing email, how, most of the time people are sending out like a newsletter or, some sort of, salesy sort of thing. How does that work?
You use the word new. I hate newsletters. Absolutely freaking hate newsletters. In fact, people send me newsletters like our accountant, will sends a newsletter. And the thing I hate about it is there's 10 different topics in it. Maybe well, I don't know what applies to me. Why are you sending me this newsletter? I said I'm supposed to sort through it and figure out why you sent it to me. It's just I don't want that. If you know me, if I'm a good client, you should understand. You and your database accountant should know what my interests are. What type of business am I or person? What issues might I have? What's good? What's bad? And if you're going to send me something, just pull out the one item from your thick newsletter that I'm supposed to invest my time. No, I'm trying to get free, but I think sending newsletters is disrespectful of your target's time. I hate them. You should. It's our job. It's the if you're writing, like I write stuff. I think it's a writer's job to distill down the essence of hundreds of thousands of pages into something you can hand to somebody that they can use right away. So I'm not going to send you something so it's going to be short and sweet and as appropriate as I can make it for you. Uh, so that said, I don't send newsletters. I even said to the account, I even went on that little rant. I go, why are you doing that? And he looked at me like I had snakes crawling out of my eyes. Like, well, everybody gets a newsletter. Everybody sends them. No, you only send them because everybody else sends them, not because it's a good thing to do. It's just what everybody does. So you think that's the right thing to do, and you're providing information. You're not. You're wasting your client's time and if they want to. But most people don't even think about freedom. They don't think about time. They use their time poorly. So now they have to go home and miss their kid's soccer game because they're dragging work home. Or launch into schools too. Our schools do that too. Kids stand in line all day. They waste time, and then you go, "Oh, you got 3 hours of homework." It's like, you know what? You could have got that done during the day. So anyway, there's my time. Time is our most valuable asset, and we piss it away, and people drag it away. We need to guard our time like it's the most valuable thing that we guard. Our time and health, right? Time and health, and those things that are really super important. But people don't seem not to think that far. So, but we do here, and so go look. We're not doing that to you. We're not going to do that to you. And I would hope that you don't do that to others. If they're, what your target's interests are, most likely, at least as far as your conversation with them and your understanding about them. That's part of our job is to understand who they are, their motivations, what they want, get them what they want, quick and clean. So there's my rant about newsletters. As far as what we send them, we typically it's our industry related. People like stories, right? People like
Mhm.
stories. So if we can tell a quick story, here's something that happened recently, or a deal that we did. If we did a deal and you're kind of in the same kind of industry, you're going to find that interesting. Oh, that's and then that way too, when my emails get to you every month, you're going to go, oh, I wonder what's in there, rather than going,
Mhm.
ah, crap, another salesy,
Another
spammy,
newsletter.
stupid. God, I've been wanting to. I'm going to finally unsubscribe today. Another newsletter, another salesy piece. Now, maybe a little story. People love stories.
Mhm.
So if you can make it a short story that comes to the point quickly, like this long. I remember years ago, I was writing something, or we hired somebody because to write some posts for us, and they go, well, you know what, they need to be 600 to 12, and I go, you know what, that's ridiculous. What it needs to be is as short as possible to make
Mhm.
the greatest impact, is what it really needs to be. Is how brief and brilliant can you make it? So again, you're saving the recipient's time, and at the same time getting the message across. It's like micro stories, like the like what did I see? Hemingway wrote one. What did it say? Baby baby shoes for sale, never used.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, it's So, so how do
Says it
you
all,
do
doesn't it?
that in what you're doing? Yeah, yeah. It's a, your mind just conjured up a big story. So you can tell them, or that's Hemingway. That's pretty clever. I think about that one a lot, and I go, how would I do something like that? I go, I'm not, I'm not that good, but I'm good. I'm good enough to tell a story. Here's something that happened the other day. And as long as that's somewhat applicable, and they go, yeah, that's interesting, or structured something a little differently than they, or
Or it can be
one that you just
progress.
did, and
It
they
can
go,
be what,
you know what, Ian does deals. Next
right.
time. Yeah,
Or
right.
progress. Like,
Without
what's going on?
bragging.
Oh, we're here. We're 60 days
Hey,
away.
we
Or
just hit another, what?
I think with what you've got going on, and you're trying to get this off the ground, where you're manufacturing, you know, you can do things to kind of create a little urgency too. Like, oh man, I better refer my guy in there right away because the window's closing. Try to create. I always like to try to create move forward kind of things where they want to act. Like, what can I do to prompt them
Mhm.
where they want to act? I always want them
Yeah.
to act, and you do split up your data. What we do here is we have different data. We have customer data, and then we have referrer data. What I send to the customer is going to be different. It's going to really promote action. It's getting them to maybe subscribe to other services that we have available to them. So depending on the time of year, we're in the credit card processing business or payment processing business. We may do something regarding gift cards, or we might do
Hmm.
something regarding new equipment, whatever it is, because we know the industry. But what we send to refer would be different, because they're not a client, so you got to kind of split it
Right.
up and,
Yeah.
and make sure that you have, because that's all you work with, right? Clients and people who refer clients to you. It's two different beasts, if you
Hmm.
will, and they're not beasts; they're just two different things that you're dealing with. But I think I really like move forward things. If you're looking to get referrals, depending on your database, depending on what the industry is, depending on what it looks like, you know, promote whatever. Maybe you have a program. Maybe you have something that, hey, if you refer someone in, you get X or whatever. Then promote that. Promote action. Don't promote just sitting still, because that's what people will do is they'll sit still. You want movement. You want
Hmm.
things to happen.
One of the things we might, like, if we're going to send an email out to refer, and we may tell them something like, here's one of the things that we're telling our clients. So because these refers want, typically, or often, a referrer has the same customer they have the same client that they sent to us is their
Hmm.
client. So we share the client. So they have the client's best interest in mind. So we might say, hey, here's what we're doing for them. So they go, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. It's good to know. That they're doing it. It's nice to know, or that kind of thing. And that too can come up in a cocktail party where something comes up. The weird conversations come up. Or one unexpected conversation and weird conversation. But yeah, we might use that same body. It just depends what's going on. Like, hey, if you have other clients, because like when Chuck was saying we want action to happen, well, we'd like them to send us more business. So if they know what we're doing, hey, we're contacting our clients because this at the end of the year, this equipment is, and there's a handful of things that are just going to change. And and a lot of people, a lot of clients don't know, or a lot of merchants in our case don't know about it. All of ours do, but a lot of our competitions don't. So if you might want to help your people be aware, and so that might prompt them to go, you know what, these guys are pretty proactive, and then so it's just whether they send us somebody now or something comes up, they go, these guys are on the ball, they seem to be on the ball. Hey, you might want to give them a jingle. So that way, there again, you can use the same. You don't have to create a totally different message. It's a different spin on the same message. We call them semi-custom messages here. It's just semi-custom. We just adapt it the beginning and the end to the target, but the information is often the same. Where it changes. Sometimes you work with totally different. Like we work with some nonprofits, and that they will refer business to us. They can be our clients. They also can refer business because they've got supporters. And we have this thing called the give back, where if they refer one of their supporters over and we sign them up, then part of the fee that merchants pay to process cards, we give back to the nonprofit. So, going to a nonprofit might be a little bit different spin, but there are very few there are very few situations where you can't use the body of the message to send to most everybody. Saves a lot of time, and it's not it's not a big advertising message. It's like we talked about. It's a story, or here's what's going on, or a deal that happened, or something that we just saw out there. Here's an interesting observation. Da 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 da. Saw this and thought of you. That's one that we use a lot. Hey, saw this and I thought of you, and they go, oh wow, that was nice of them to think of me and send this out. And so you see, back to your question about newsletters, you can see why we don't send them, because it's different. You know, it's a different thing when you get one of our messages and it's a story, or it's something that we're doing, or it's something that's simpler on the brain, and we're not making them sort through a newsletter that then most of the stuff doesn't apply, or sometimes none of it applies. It's not even interesting. It's just confusing. The other way, our way is, we believe, is simpler, keeps us on their mind in a positive way.
Okay, that's helpful. And so
It is. It is helpful.
yeah,
It's not. It's absolutely not what all the crap that you're bombarded with, the noise and this, like, like most advertising, I think sucks. It's either, it's clicky, right? The advertiser's job is just to get you to click, and so they've got to trick you. And I'm so tired of being tricked,
Right.
and I think all of us are. I mean, we're prickly these days. We're jumpy. We're not, we've been lied to. That's why, I think one of the reasons that trust is in the tank. We don't trust each other because we've been tricked so damn long, with just simple little things like advertising or headlines, or, oh, you get there and it's not really what you thought, or, it's just, you think everybody's lying, and we have no interest in that. And so I would rather that when our email drops in their box, they go, oh, it's almost like it's a relief. And if we put something interesting in it before, a story that is applicable to them or their industry, or something just generally, they go, oh, it's almost like a break from the noise, the madness, the insanity of everything else that's going around. We can be the buoy of sanity, of something where it's not going to, shock you or any of that. It's like,
Mhm.
finally somebody who can be solid and truthful. There you go. I get spun out about that stuff, but and because so many people, I mean, look
You,
at it. So is the world getting angrier or happier?
you know what it
Hmm.
reminds me of is, you ever see the movie A Christmas Story? When the guy gets his
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
secret
Oh
decoder,
yeah.
he gets the secret decoder ring out of the Ovaltine, right? And he's like, "Oh man, he's so excited." And
Hmm.
he's got his piece of paper and his
Yeah.
pencil, and he's like decoding this message. And then the message is, "Drink more Ovaltine." The kid's like, "What? That's the message I got? Drink more Ovaltine, an advertisement?
Yeah.
That sucks." Make it engaging. Just
Yeah.
engaging. It doesn't.
A crummy advertisement. Yeah.
Right. I worked so hard to get this like secret decoder thing, and it just gave me an advertisement. That really stinks. So, and it doesn't have to be, we're not Ernest Hemingway, right? It doesn't have to be some deep, it's like, and it's got to be short. It can't be, four
Yeah.
paragraphs long. And it's like, dude, I don't have time to sit and read, half a novel here. Just make it short and sweet, and just, and you play with it a while. You play with it and you figure
Hmm.
out what resonates with folks. How long does it need to be? We figured, we're like one paragraph. I mean, that's what we found is most effective, and not a long drawn email. And I get those too, newsletters, and then I get emails. It's like, did you write me a book? It's like, I don't have time to. I could just call you and you could tell me this in 30 seconds, or I could read it in 5 minutes. It's like, people don't spend the time doing that. They just don't.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The other thing that we don't do, since we're talking about emails and writing, we don't spam. We don't buy a list and send an email.
No.
We just well, if we buy a list, that's fine. But if we buy a list, we call, hey, da 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 da, and then send something.
Yes.
So it's just a lot more effective. I know it's because you can go out and buy 700 billion emails and hit go. Everybody's going to hate you, and now you've
Hmm.
just caused more noise and mistrust in the world. And um, and it's a lot more effective. Hey, just want to touch base. I've got this stuff. Just wanted to let you know who we are. Da da da. Pop it out, and now you do have their email, and now it's cool, and they expect, and then you use their email respectfully,
Right.
Hmm.
and they've heard from you. They heard from you that when your email shows up, they go, oh, that's the guy that called and said this, and whatever you said, hopefully they're going to semi look forward to. At least they're going to recognize it. Oh, in the subject line it says, you know, white poodle, you know,
Hmm.
and then they go, oh, there's that white poodle one. They don't remember your name, but they remember white poodle. But anyway, but that's what we do, and it works very well because then they know you too. Anyway,
Hmm.
million reasons why we do that
Right.
first. What we don't do is call up and go, hey, we're going to send you our newsletter. That we don't do.
So, when you're so in that situation where you've got your list of not yet contacted, you're giving them each a call, or you got a list and you're giving them each a call. You know, what do you do under situations where they're like, yeah, I've got a couple of whatever you do,
Resources.
that I deal with, like, do you yeah, do you take the approach of like, hey, great, like, let me send something to them? Do you just kind of periodically follow up with them? I guess you know
Chuck, I know, is chomping at the bit to
I,
take
I
this one.
am, because
He's
I,
always
Go
got a
ahead.
good
I've been
response on it.
exactly here, right? Because one of the things that we've done is we deal with a lot of banks. We'll handle, when we started dealing with banks years ago, underwriting was different. So there was a lot of accounts that banks couldn't get approved, so they would come to us to get the accounts approved. And there were scenarios where you would call a bank and they'd go, "Oh, I have somebody that I deal with." Great. Oh man, I love that, because you obviously, you figured out you had a need for someone like this, and you understand that it's valuable to have a second resource for your clients. And I say it just like that. This is where like sales comes in, right? Because you have to kind of judge. Some people love them, some people don't care, some people hate whoever their second resource is. And this one might be a 2 or 3 call kind of deal, right? It's like, well, great, you understand the value. Well, let me do this, because there's nothing wrong with having a backup, right? And we've gotten into scenarios where, because we're really good at what we do, that we could do things that their normal backup couldn't do. And then the next thing you know, their normal backup didn't exist anymore. Because what it boils down to is relationship. So we are so much more consistent than the competition. I call them once a month, because I know I always called those. Those would be like a B, but I would call those every month, because I want to win. I want to start getting their declines over whomever else they're using. They already understand the benefit. Now it's just rapport time. Now it's building rapport. Then in conjunction with that, you're sending good contact every month. You're providing better service than because that person essentially is your competition, right? Someone else is doing the same thing you're doing. They're your competition. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do is I'll beat the competition. And quite frankly, it's relationship. It's relationship with these folks. That's really what it all boils down to. If they like you, if they trust you, they're going to do business with you over whomever else. And sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But I would call them, stay in contact with them. They understand the value, or I might, depending on where I am in my relationship with them, I'm like, well, what do you like about them? What don't you like about them? And then I have to sell my way into covering their needs that their other person is not covering. But discovery, this is where so many people, and we call it recon, we call it discovery, whatever you want to call it, is how often do you use them? Oh, no kidding. And then how's that work? How does it work? Ask them. You got to learn their deal. This is where you have to be a good salesperson, because you got to uncover. Because what happens is they're telling you, you'll start uncovering little needs that they don't even know aren't being met. So you got to stay in contact with those. And I love those. I like hearing that, because now I know I'm dealing with somebody that's a buyer. They go, oh, well, we have a second source. Yeah, we use them all the time. Okay, great. They're a buyer. Now I got to get in and do better than the other guy. And that's it's like selling anybody for changing their services. Well, you process here. Why should you process here? Because I need to uncover your needs that you don't even know possibly aren't being met, or you do, and then show you how I can help you with those needs. Same process, it's just a sales process, but you got to do discovery. You got to ask. And they're buyers. They understand the value. Mm-hmm. That's great, because that's less explaining I have to do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chuck brought up a question that nobody ever asks, and he said, "Well, what do you like about him?" One of the things that we have is, in this discovery process, like everybody, when they're taught sales, this is 50 years ago and still today, they go, mm-hmm. All right, there's 4 steps to the sale: rapport and relationship, presentation, overcoming objections, and close. And we don't believe that. What we do is a little bit of recon. We have a good idea of who they are before we talk to them, and then in our discovery, which is sort of like is building rapport and relationship, but we want to understand, even though we have done a little recon and have a little bit of understanding, we have a conversation. And so our rapport and relationship and presentation are really kind of mixed into one. And really we just have a conversation. Oh, and one of the questions is, oh, you use that, oh, what do you like about it? I want to know what they like. And this is one of the things everybody's scared shitless to ever ask anybody, because, oh, heaven forbid I ask what they like about the competition. Well, I want to know, what do you like? Because if I can provide the same things that you like, but I'm also going to ask, well, if you could have something a little bit different, or the best that you could imagine, what would it be? And if there's some of those things that I can provide, well, I can provide all the good stuff already, because I know what it is.
Right.
Because if I don't ask, I don't know what they like.
And
It's just in conversation, it's sort of a natural thing to ask in a conversation. But in a presentation, you're never going to do that.
no,
Well,
no,
we're,
no.
JD Powers and Associates, ranked us number one, and all the stupid shit that
Hmm.
nobody cares about that you're going to say all about it's the same as like a salesy advertising. Just stop it. Let's have a conversation. And what we're going to do, I'm going to find out a lot about you. I'm going to find out about how you got into this business. And that's going to unlock a whole lot of information
Hmm.
and stories. And I go, oh, and I'm paying attention. And I go, well, what'd you do then? Oh, we did this. I go, oh, that's interesting. Did you, and so now I'm understanding way more than anybody has ever
Hmm.
asked them. And it's like, like in a conversation when, like you're out at a party or something, the one who asks the questions is the one who controls the conversation. The one
Right,
who asks the questions is the most interesting person because the person that's responding is talking all about themselves, and that's the most interesting thing they can talk about.
right.
So you do that. We do that in business, the same in life as you do in business. The same kind of conversation. Oh yeah, and then along the way, we're going to ask little tie down questions like, oh, so if you could have this, or we could provide that, or however you phrase the
Right,
question, that would help you, wouldn't it? Yeah, yeah, it
right.
really would. Okay. So now we're tying this down along the way. We're tying it down, tying it down, tying it down. Where everybody else teaches you, step number 4 is close. You
Right.
had no
Close
good
them.
conversation. All you did is present, and now you're trying to get the business. And they go, well, I've got to think about it. And what they have to think about is all the stuff that you didn't cover when you should have having a conversation. So we just it doesn't have to be, and usually too in business when people are presenting, they use language that you don't usually use in real life.
Right.
And so it slows people down. They have to think about the word you just chose because
Hmm.
it's not a normal word that they're used to. Well, sometimes you hear me say that. I go, Ian, stop. What does that word mean? I don't even know what it means.
Right.
And so you lost me. And be most people aren't going to go, hey, hold on, what do you mean by that? Because they don't want to look stupid.
Right.
They're just going to let you continue with the conversation. Meanwhile, you've lost them. They're still, you're 4 sentences ahead. They're still trying to understand what that $3 word that
Right.
you used meant. Even if you think they understand, they may not. So, you don't talk to sound uh, like businessy and astute. You talk in a way that they understand, because otherwise you're going to get to the end and they're still going to be stuck on that $3 word, and
Right.
you missed probably one of the more important things that you wanted to you cover. So anyway, it's a conversation, and I'm going to use some of the vocabulary that they're using. This mirror image thing.
Yep.
If they are real academic, and you really want to use that, you want to match the vocabulary, that's fine, but they're also human, and so you want to use questions and stories and all those things that are very human, and because they're not just an academic automatron. They're human with an academic spin. Don't you ever Most people in business forget about the human element.
Hmm.
And I know some of them don't, but they do it in a sleazy way. They go, "Oh, here's pictures of my grandkids." Okay, that's great, but um, use to speak to them, speak with them. It's a conversation. You talk with them,
Right.
not at them.
At them.
So anyway,
And most of the time when you do ask them, one, mirror imaging I think is great. I never, in our industry, when you're talking to our clients, I never use industry language that I know. There's no way they know. They don't know. Like interchange, for an example, is a term that's used to describe what Visa and MasterCard put out there for cost. I don't, when you're talking, well, it depends on how you're sitting over interchange and the merchant's going, I don't even know what interchange is. What does this mean? Then you lose them automatically, right? But secondly, I think it's something to remember is when you go, what do you like about them? A lot of times they'll go, well, we like this, but one thing we really don't like is this. Oh, instead of going, what don't you like about them? I ask what you like about them. And and if I'm building rapport properly, they're going to be pretty transparent with me. And and also, I mean, I think choices are good, right? Do you think choices are good? Ian, do you think choices are good? Do you like having choices? Well, great, Mr. and Mrs. Banker. Wouldn't it be great if your merchant had choices too? So when they got declined through your program, they had a couple options to see which one would fit them better. Because all I want them to do is give my information to that merchant because I'm going to outsell whomever else is talking to them. I'm going to beat whoever else is talking to them. So I'm glad to have another service. Add mine to your list that way, because so I'm building value in something different. Well, you probably want your merchant to have choices, right? So they don't feel like that they're just stuck with one option. Yeah, that sounds great. But I ask them. I don't tell them. I mean, you probably like choices, right? And they go, and you can see their body. You can hear it on the phone, right? You can hear it. Yeah, I can see choices are great. Great. Let's give choices to your client. Because you have to believe. I saw, and I can't remember who the baseball player was. One time I saw an interview on ESPN, and it was a pretty famous, and I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I just somehow got sucked into this interview. And the, the gal asking the question said, "Do you think you're the best baseball player in the world?" And the guy goes, "Yes." She goes, "Well, that's kind of arrogant, isn't it?" And he goes, "Well, I have to think that. Because if I don't think that, every time I'm up to bat, I'm going to strike out. So I have to go up there thinking that no one can strike me out, that I'm going to hit this out of the ballpark." Same thing. You have to go into whatever this conversation is and go, "Look, I'm going to," and it's not a win-lose thing. I like to think that whatever, and I don't think, I know for a fact that whatever I sell, I believe in it, right? You believe in what you're doing, you believe in it. So you're helping these people. And if I feel like I'm helping you, I can be charmingly aggressive and it's forgivable. They go, "Hey, forgive my passion, but I just know this is really good for you and it'd be really good for your clients to have more than one option." And they go, "Oh, yeah, oh, no problem. I can understand why and I know we're kind of getting out to a lot of different, because it all works together. It's just like, it's just, you gotta have like kind of every angle kind of covered. And depending on whom you're talking with is going to determine how you come in there. And that's that mirror imaging thing. I think Tony Robbins talked about doing an experiment that if you go to like a restaurant or a bar and you're sitting there and you start doing a certain mannerism, the person across the bar is going to start doing that too, because they kind of start watching. You ever go to somebody like this? Test this out. Go just like this. Go up to somebody and go, and you're not looking, but your dad is, or John is, so I'll show him. You go like this. You ever do that to somebody? You go like that. Do you know what they do instantly when you do that, when you're talking to them? They go, right? Because that's that leading thing. And you can do it verbally. You can do it if you're face to face. That's how you lead them to make the decision of what's best for them. And that's what you're providing. Does that make sense? How you lead? You always have to lead. We talk about tie down questions, but it's above. This is just a little above just normal tie down questions. You just have to lead them into making the right decision. And that takes time. It's a skill set. You got to practice the dickens out of it.
Yeah. And that's true. If you're going to be in the world of selling stuff, regardless of where what your position is, or coming to an agreement with somebody, you have to practice your craft. You got to get really good at it. One of the things that makes that easier is when people call you. Somebody has recommended you that they trust, and so you can. So one of the things that we talk about is, like, if somebody were starting a business, or you're in the middle of it and you go, "Man, I just want to I want to increase it. I want to be better." What we talk about is building this referral network. Marketing is a big deal. We'll call it marketing, as opposed to selling. The marketing, the building, making the connections with your referral network, making connections and assembling one of these big, massive referral networks. That's first. I don't want to call it first or second, but that's the big focus. A lot of people, when they're selling things, they go, "I just want to know the words." Yeah, you don't understand the words because you don't understand what you're trying to do. If you really want to get free, and if you're creating freedom, and if getting free is dependent on your communication skills and your ability to make these connections, one, you want to have a system that's going to work. We talk about the mechanics of that and who you contact and what you say,
Mm-hmm.
and that and in that what you say, what we've found, because we've not only done this ourselves, but we've hired people. We've brought thousands and thousands of people on and taught them this stuff. Usually they're after exactly the wrong stuff. They all want to get free, but they want to know what are the words, what's the magic bullet words you can say to anybody. They're going to say yes. It's not the case. You've got to be really attuned and in tune and understand, like Chuck was talking about, leading. This is something that you get better with over the course of time. The system and the assembling things, you can start right away. You put that together, and of course, when you're making connections, because we don't just spam, you have to have these conversations like Chuck was illustrating. So you work on your skill there. You're always adapting. You go, all right, how'd that go? One of the things that most people never do, that we have talked about since day one, and we did ourselves, is you record yourself. You record your conversation and you play it back, and if you're just talking, you don't hear yourself. You're having this conversation, but when you play it back and review it, you go, and then you can adapt, and then you get better on your next call and you listen to that. Most people will never do that, and that's one of the things that we've done a lot of. We have always recorded ourselves and reviewed it and adapted and get better next time, and most people don't. If you do, you'll improve quickly. You'll ascend. If you don't, you'll kind of always stay the same. You'll get maybe a little bit better over a long period of time, but you'll get better faster if you review yourself and adapt. Review yourself and adapt, the more the lights go on, the more the lights go on. But if you don't, the lights always stay off, and you never quite understand why you never got better,
And you got
why
to
you
be
always stayed the
present,
same. Maybe you're good, and
right?
that's one of the curses, by the way. Well, yeah, you've got to, yeah, present. It's not like, how many people do they're having a conversation, they're scrolling through the phone.
Yeah.
That's it's not present. They're not going to get better. And you see that and you go, man, how long do you want this to take? And if you
Right.
want it to take a short time, be present, review, adapt, review, adapt, review, adapt, and 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 you get better quickly. But when you're paying attention to other things and you're not paying attention to what you're trying to, if you're
Right.
trying to get free, then this is an important deal. Pay attention to these things. But we're addicted, right? We're addicted to all this stimulation, this crazy noisy
Mm-hmm.
world. But if within this noisy, crazy, busy world, if you just go, look, yeah, while I'm here, this is I'm getting free. I'm getting free. So pay attention to this stuff. Chuck said, be present. Be present. Be very assertive in what you're reviewing about yourself and adapting and testing, and you feel yourself, pretty soon you're doing it and you go, oh man, and now you can't unsee the level that you've gotten to. Suddenly you find yourself and you look back and you go, man, I would never do that again, like how they taught me before, or how I did it for so long. There's no way. Yeah, I can imagine going back there and it would suck. I'm not doing it, man. And there's other things that we don't yet know. We don't yet know how to do. But if we keep reviewing and adapting, pretty soon we do. And then you'd never come back to this point that we're at right now. We think we're really good right here, and there's so many things that we just don't understand. It's one of the curses of being like a natural athlete. Often they don't get better. They just hone what they have. Glory days. Oh man, remember? But then you become a has-been because you haven't adapted. Who sell things, people in business who don't review and adapt, become has-beens. And you can hear it in their language, you can see it in them, you can see it in their performance. They become a has-been because unfortunately they were naturally good and just continued to hone that and never got beyond, didn't keep up while the world around them changed, or never became what was possible. I
Right.
think we're given certain ability potential. I call it your true potential. You're given true potential, but there's so many things that we have within us that we can unlock, so many things that we don't have to get from the outside. We already have it within us. We just, if we review and adapt and review and adapt, we just keep unlocking more of who we are and what's possible. But most people don't. They're just kind of, it's like when they went to college. They went to college, or they're naturally good or whatever. They figure
Hmm.
that's it. I'm just going to run at that level, and they never get where they want to go. They always fall. There's always this gap. You see it with most everybody in the world.
Hmm.
They get to the certain point. They never get where they want to go, and they never understand why. And often it's just because they keep honing. They think this is it. Like when kids graduate from college, that they go through what's it called when you go through graduation, where you put the tassel to the other side and you throw your hats and everybody's
Commencement
happy and they don't
ceremony.
have to go to school anymore. What's that celebration called?
Commencement ceremony.
Commencement, right? But if what does the word commencement mean? Huh? I
What
can't
does
hear
it
you
mean?
80% of the time. It's our connection isn't quite.
Yeah, I know
Uh,
mine's commencement.
but
You're
but yeah, commencement, which means to start.
yes.
It doesn't mean to stop learning. It means, okay, now we can start. And but they do. They'll take some courses and do some stuff, but it's not really very aggressive. Most nobody aggressively unlocks what's really possible. But if you start reviewing yourself and adapting, and it doesn't have to be big things, it can just be tiny. And it's best if it's small, because those are things that you can identify and work on. If it's big, broad sweeping things, it's just too big. But just tiny little things that, whatever it is, it's you know like I think too, like, just take it out of business and put it into weight loss. I mean, look at, oh my God, the people waddling around today. It's no wonder we've got a sick world. But and they would all just they would rather be thinner and more healthy and that kind of thing. But you look at some of these and go, man, that it looks hopeless to me too. But imagine being in that fat suit. It would be tough, and they don't know what to do, and it's like, but oh, so I need to lose 50 pounds. Well, that's okay. You're not going to do that tomorrow. But if they start measuring little things like how many calories, everything that they consume.
Right.
If they measure it, it's like, okay, if you measure it, okay, I just ate 50 calories, just ate 350. Oh, I just walked a little bit. Okay, I can, how many, look it up, how many calories did that burn? And if you understand the math, your metabolism is going to burn, what, give or take 2,000 calories a day. And also it takes 3,500 calories to burn a pound of fat. So, okay. So if you ate nothing, you divide what 2,200 divided by 3,500. It's about 2/3 of a pound of fat. Of course, you're not going to have any energy. So now you go, okay, I need something for energy, so I'm going to add those. But I need to burn those off. So I'm going to do walking or riding my bike or running or whatever the case is. But if you start just looking at tiny things, just measuring tiny things, now you get a handle on it. Pretty soon now you start thinking, oh, instead of eating a sugar cube for calories, maybe I'll eat,
Hmm.
protein, or something different that gives me different. So the same thing in every aspect of life. Let's just, in how I communicate. If I record it and then I go, oh, that's it. I right here, I can work on that little thing in my next conversation. And then so you do, and that's the one thing they have in your mind, one small thing that's within reach, that you can measure and review and work on. Once you nail that one, as you're nailing it, other things come to mind too. And as you hear these conversations, you go, oh man, that's better, I did it. And
Hmm.
so now that I'm doing it, I can now, what's the next thing? Oh, I need to do this part. Okay, now I just review and I adapt that one, and after a few tries trying to figure out how to adapt it, I do. And and it's what a scientist called, it's ascending intelligence. You just keep your vantage point changes. Now you see other things differently too. You go, oh, okay. You see how you can change things in other areas, and pretty soon it's like, well, wow, what's possible. You start asking yourself different questions and seeing things in a different way. It's an interesting thing. But anyway, you boil it down to just small things that you can identify because you reviewed it. And anyway, back to recording. And as usual, it's
I,
a long exercise on a small point. But the point is, record yourself. Whether it's video, audio, whatever the case is. Look at how you look at how you sound, how the conversation go. We used to do a thing called tape club. Back when there was tape.
mhm,
We had
mhm.
everybody in our office on tape recorders, and and all of the calls were recorded, and then once a week we'd have tape club. And so it's bring something that you're proud of, that you're not proud of. If you want to, like, how do I do this? See this? I don't, I suck right here. I'm really, or
Well,
this didn't go to plan, or
when
look
you
at
hear
this,
it,
I did it, it went to plan.
when you
And then
hear
we
it,
work on it together.
like you hear the conversation, especially I'm not. I was never real interested in hearing about hearing conversations where it went perfect because it went perfect, right? I wanted to hear conversations that didn't go the way I wanted them to go, because when you hear those, you can hear exactly where it turned. You can hear it in their voice. You can hear it in what words they chose to use, and you go, how did I not hear that live? I mean, it's so clear when I'm
Yeah.
hearing it outside, but how did I not hear that during this
Hmm.
process? And then that makes you better because then you start recognizing things. And then I always used to kind of equate it to like there's like if it like on a linear thing, right? Like there's all different types of people in this world from the absolute worst to the absolute best, right? Whatever those measures may be, and then there's everywhere in between. And then what happens is you start understanding this spectrum of people. Then when you get someone on the phone or you're engaging with them in person, you see their mannerisms, you hear the words that they choose to use, how they talk with you, and then you start thinking of this line of people, and you go, okay, that guy fits in right here. And I remember selling people in this area, this little shaded area where this guy falls into, and then I already automatically know how to relate with them, because you got it, like every presentation, or I don't want to say every process, right? Every time I'm interacting with a client, what we should be doing as humans is you're gathering data. You're like just sucking up all this data. And then you fast forward 2 months from now and you get someone that you're dealing with that is real similar. You know exactly how to handle them because you learn how to handle different types of people. I've always been amazed at people that will go in and they don't do tape club or they don't record their calls, they don't hear it, and they continually mishandle personalities later. And it's like, didn't you deal with a guy just like that 2 weeks ago? Remember that personality? It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same person. What'd you learn here? Well, you didn't listen to it, or you didn't record it, or you
Right.
didn't whatever. So here you're failing again. You got to listen. You got to listen to yourself. It's crazy. And I don't know about you, but I don't like listening to
Yeah.
myself or
It's
seeing myself, but you gut it out. You do it anyway because it helps you become better. It's a huge difference, man. No one likes to hear themselves, right? They go, "Oh God."
you yeah, you think you're better than you sound. When you hear
Hmm.
yourself, you go, "Oh God, I
Yeah.
really am not as good as I thought I was."
Right.
I mean, really, I see that. Like, we'll review this. I'll look at it and I'll cringe. Sometimes I'll go, "Man, all right, all right, you should have next time."
Yeah.
You can, and it's next. So but if I don't watch this, if I don't watch it, I won't have the opportunity to cringe. So I must
Yes.
review. I review, I cringe, and then I adapt, and then I remember next. So when we do something like this in the future, we'll I'll catch myself. Oh my, okay. I'm doing this thing that I'm. Hold on, I'm working on adapting that. I'm working on my examples being more clear, my spiels being shorter. Yeah. Um, Anyway, so it's like profiling. Chuck brought up, oh, that's the same person you talked to before. This is the same profile. It's profiling.
Mm-hmm.
You're being, when you're talking to people, you're having these conversations. If you're observing it, you become the observer, right? If you're listening and paying attention, you become the observer, and not you become the observer of the other party and yourself. I'm profiling them, and I'm observing this conversation. I'm kind of profiling me. It's like, oh, I'm falling into this profile of the thing I didn't that I'm trying to adapt. I recognize it. You start recognizing so much stuff, and and if you've been adapting, I mean, it's just compoundingly gets you become so much more skilled, like as in anything, right? If you're a golfer and you record your swing, you go, ah, that's why I slice. It's like I could hit balls all day long, but until I see it, and I go, oh, I see, uh, or this kind of thing, conversations, video, all these things, and anyway, I'm beating a dead horse. You'll recognize it, and you'll cringe. Just like when you record your greeting on your phone and you do it 80 times because the
Right.
first 79 just sucked. You don't like the way you sound, your nuances. You're doing that in every conversation. You're just not recording them. But if you did, holy cow, you can get better
Right.
fast.
Okay, that's helpful. Um, jumping back onto I'm reflecting on a conversation I had this past week with a potential refer, and you know the it was a good conversation. He's like, yeah, I people ask me all the time. I'd love to send love to send you guys business, like the approach, all of that. And so I tried the whole like, hey, like who do you know, like what's and
Was that the
and
words you used?
his response,
Was that the
uh,
words you used? Who do you
yeah,
know?
who do you
Okay.
know?
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, keep going. I'm just curious what the outcome
um,
was.
yeah. Um, so the outcome is he's like, yeah, I don't have anybody right now that I can send you. Um, and but if you send something over, I'd love to forward it on to some people. Both people who also can refer you some business, and then something I can have on hand to send to them when they reach out. So overall positive, but not necessarily. He did not respond with like oh, here's somebody right now, which was okay. But I just wanted to share that experience
Right.
because I figure you guys might have some comments.
I do. Yeah. John, I can take it if you want. Sometimes he's not 100% sold
Yeah,
yet.
go
Like,
go ahead.
I think that, hey, I get asked all the time, oh, no kidding. Well, who do you know? You know, and he goes, well, I don't have anybody right now, but, when I do. So, like, this would be a B for me, right? So let's label this as a B. It's like, okay, there's potential here. He's not sold to give me anything right now. So maybe he just doesn't quite trust me. So, because I'm sure you have information that you send them, right? Everybody wants information. Usually I say that's a brush off, but I can understand the guy's not quite ready yet. But I would ask a little more, I would ask clarifying questions like, oh, no, like when you say, and I wouldn't say it like this, but I'm saying it like this to illustrate a point. When you say people ask you all the time, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, oh, no kidding. Like, they ask you for a resource to manufacture. I'm curious, why do they ask you? Right? What is the dynamics of that? What does it look like? Oh, no kidding. Like, are these startups? Are these people just coming out with whatever industry you're in? You got to figure out, why are they asking you and what are they asking you for? Because what I want him to understand is like, okay, I can fulfill that need. I'm a resource. You have to look at me as a resource. I'm not just a guy sending you information. I'm a guy that's kind of holding you accountable too. Like, oh, no kidding. Are these new companies? Are they startups? Are they existing companies? Why did they ask you? Are they running into issues? And they go, yeah, they're kind of, and then sometimes I ask for an example. Like, give me an example. Depending on how long I can retain their attention. I don't just go, okay, great, I'll send you information. I got to dig in with a couple more questions because I'm trying to close. I'm trying to get one now. And I always said this during the sales process. I always like to take it just to the point where like it's friendly, but if I push this one more time, they're going to get a little agitated. I get right to that point, and everybody's different, right? I have to. Because it's better for them. It's better for everybody else to help people. So that's when I say, hey, don't mistake my passion for being overzealous here. I think this is a great thing. But I got to push them. I can't just roll over. And, oh, yeah, well, I'll send that to you. I mean, you're going to send him information ultimately anyway. But you go, yeah, I can definitely. I'd go, sure, man, I can get information out. Because then when I say it like that, he knows I heard you. People want to be heard. Okay, he heard me. He said he's going to send information. And I go, hey, just out of curiosity, like the last person that asked you for that, what kind of business was it? What was it, a startup? Was it an existing? Why did they come
Notice what
to you?
Chuck just did. Notice what he did. He said, yeah. I'll send you info. He's doing almost like a Columbo here. Like, remember that old detective? He agrees, and then he starts turning like he's going away, and he goes, "Oh, one more thing."
Right.
Sorry, Chuck.
Because no, thank you. That supernatural feeling, right? To them, it's like natural. It doesn't sound like I'm coming in like a robot with like boom, 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 boom. I go, yeah, of course I'll get information over to you. I really appreciate that. That's great. That way, when you do run into people, like for an example, what the last person that asked you, what kind of business was it? Now, I'm drilling down on a potential referral right here. And he might go, oh, it's funny you asked that because this guy was doing, do you know what they ever did? What'd they find out? Well, you know what? I don't even know. I go, what we should do? Does this sound familiar from when we spoke before? What we should do? Why don't I just reach out to him? Why don't I just reach out to him and say, hey, Bill asked me to give you a call because he said you were asking something before. All I want to do is get thrown into the mix. Because if you throw me into the mix, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to sell it. I just got to get thrown into the mix. And that means I get to use your name when I call this person. Hey, Joe, Bill over at XYZ wanted me to reach out to you. He'd mentioned that like a year ago you were asking him and he wasn't sure if he ended up finding a resource. And, and that's what we do. And I just wanted, and he's going to go, oh, yeah, Bill, of course. Yeah, what's going on? What do you do? Now I'm in. Because let me ask you, these companies, often they come out with more than one drug, right? So they're always going to need a resource. And you told me before, 90% of the time, they're unhappy with whom they're with. So all I got to do is get me in front of this person. Whatever I need to do to get in front of them, and it's mine to lose from there. Does that make sense? But drill it down. Because it's like you never poo-poo it. You go, yeah, hey, you know what? For sure, I'll say, I really appreciate that, man. That's great. Just out of curiosity, what was the guy who asked you last time? What was it? And go right into Q&A mode. Because all I want to do is get them talking.
Right.
And then if
And he pivoted. Yeah. 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 You don't just send info. Oh yeah, I'll send it
no.
out. That's what everybody does. And like Chuck said, it's a blow off. It's a blow off answer. Yeah. Just, I don't know of anybody now. Can you send me some info? Or, you go, I'll send some info. Yep. And that's where everybody leaves it. And it's not enough.
Yeah.
And
It's
here's
not
why it's
enough.
not
It's what
enough.
everybody does, and it's not enough.
So what's the next call look like? Hey, just wanted to follow up. Did you get the info? Yeah. Do you have anybody else that's asking you? Hey, do you know anybody?
Right.
That makes for a really crappy next call. But if I ask and dig in a little bit,
And where's that? It's just, yeah.
Yeah, then you have a story. Then when I call him next time, go, hey man, just touching base. How's it going? Hey, did you ever talk to that guy? Did you ever talk to the guy that was coming out with that new fat drug you were telling me about that he was looking for a resource? Now I got something tangible to talk with him about
Hmm.
instead of, hey, did you just get the information? No one cares, dude. No one cares. You know
Right.
what? No one cares. No one cares
Hmm.
about why. The only thing people care about is results. That's ultimately what it is. You want results. He wants results. You want results. The people that were asking him want results. So let's create results. Move forward. Every time it's just move forward a little
Hmm.
bit. Because then what happens is then you start programming. And this could be a whole nother conversation for a day. When you start programming your refers and your customers, because it's kind of like he's going to expect when I call him, we get to the meat of it. It's not this shallowy kind of whimsical conversation that really has no meat. He's going to go, this guy means business. When he calls, we can do business. It's kind of like when you set up a relationship with a new customer. One of the things that you always have to be leery of, if I sit on the phone with you for an hour talking about nothing about moving forward, do you know what they expect every time you call them? They want to sit on the phone for an hour with you. So you've got to be like, you got to know when it's just enough, right? It's just enough. And then and I always say, hey dude, if you want to have this conversation, call me after business hours and I'll talk with you. You're a great guy. But I can't spend 2 hours a day talking with you when it's there's no meat to that. You got to put some meat on that bone. You got to ask, oh, no, okay, what kind of business? Just out of curiosity, what kind of business was it? Was it a new? Was it existing? And then ask him an open-ended question. Well, how'd that come about? Explain to me this. Don't ask yes or no. Ask an open-ended, because the more people talk with you, the more comfortable they become with you. The more comfortable they become with you, the more likely they are to send you business. If it's short conversations with no meat on there, they're not going to send you anything. It's just the way it is, unless they're in dire
Because
straits.
you haven't even demonstrated that you, yeah. Yeah, in these little conversations like Chuck's doing, you're demonstrating that you can handle yourself well,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and so when they do refer you off, are they going to refer somebody off that goes, they called, they sent me info.
Right.
There's your nobody. You didn't demonstrate anything except that you can dial a phone and send a little something out. But if you have a good conversation that and you're like engaging, right?
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, this person probably has the wherewithal to figure some stuff out.
Hmm.
Oh, it's a good conversation. Oh, it was a good conversation,
Yeah.
and you led a good conversation. Most people can't lead a good
No.
conversation. But they don't even know where they're going. They don't know where they're headed. They don't know where they're leading. Like Chuck has said before, sales is just conversation with a purpose. And
Hmm.
most people don't have a purpose. They just don't. They haven't thought about it. They haven't listened to themselves. They haven't
Right.
reviewed it. They haven't adapted. They're not on their game. They're not observing the conversation that they're having. Like when Chuck was going through that illustration, he's not only saying it, but he's probably observing the dynamic between the two speakers, one being himself and then the other one. So it's like, you're this is fully engaged. So you can't
Hmm.
be scrolling through your phone or thinking about other things and doing this. It's like it's almost like you don't even, like, if you're on the phone, you don't even see what's going
Mhm.
on. You're just so in tune, with everything, every little sound, every little nuance that's going on. And but if you're going to get free, the chances are this is your craft.
Hmm.
You're if you're going to be a good fisherman, you're refining things. You're changing up your bait. You're changing. You're attuned to the weather. If you're on the ocean, the tides. If you want to be successful in what you're doing, if it's part of it's communicating, then you're doing the same sort of thing uh, in communication. Okay, here's what I did. How did it turn out? How do I have any fish? Am I
Hmm.
eating tonight? What is it? But most people don't. It's just bizarre. But I would say most people are more interested in fishing or golf than they are in their career. Most people who are in a career want to get there late, to do as little as possible and leave as early as possible, and meanwhile get paid as much as possible. But they never quite achieve much. But if you're doing this for freedom, and if your version of freedom is, you can feel it like right here.
Hmm.
If you
Right.
can really feel it, all right, it's worth figuring out. It's worth figuring out how to have the right conversation, and how to lead it, how to do those things Chuck was talking about, because he's really good at it. He just didn't fall off the turnip truck. He's been doing this for a while. You know, and he's paid attention along the way. You know, paid attention along the way. He's recorded himself. He's taught other people how to do the same thing. He's really good at Chuck's a really good communicator this way. He's a fantastic conversation leader. And I think
I
he's
did
always
not
had a
pay
lot of
him
potential
to
in
say
this
that.
area. I've known him for a long time, and he's always been a really, yeah. But you know what? I would bet, frankly, that most people are never going. They don't have even the potential to do what Chuck is doing. I mean, as well as he does. But they have the potential to do it as well as they can. But most of them have unlocked nearly none of it. Oh, I'm here. I'm communicating. Okay, but listen to yourself. Once you start listening to yourself, now you can adapt. You can become the best that you can be at that. I know you've heard that everywhere. The best you can be, but that's at least let's start increasing, unlocking more of what's possible in our conversation skills and our leading skills. Because most of them, the conversations absolutely blow. The questions are most questions that people ask are meaningless. We've talked a lot about recon and conversation, and in our conversation instead of presentation, we're building rapport and relationship and trust and all that kind of stuff. A couple years ago, we were getting a new phone system for the office, and had a couple guys come in, and they're telling me, the first thing I remember, one of the conversations, sitting is I and the phone system sales guy sitting there at the conference table, and the guy goes, oh, his rapport and relationship was this. He goes, man, how about those Twins? And so we're in Minnesota, and the Twins are obviously the local, Major League Baseball. I don't follow baseball, so it's like, well, he lost me right away. He assumes that since I'm a guy and it's Twins season and there was a
Hmm.
game last night, that I would have watched it. I haven't watched a baseball game in years, Um, and then and then he goes, "Oh man," and I go, "Okay, well, yeah, they're doing well." Oh yeah, yeah. He blabs on about something I'm not interested in. That's totally not what to do, right? But he's interested in it, but he's lost me. And now he launches and he goes, man, we've got this new the XYZ 10,000 system, the Nimbus 2000, right? He's got the Nimbus 2000 phone system. It does all these things. You're going to love it. People are going to be able to do that. And I go, hold on a second. Do you even know what I want? And he said, well, no. I go, well, you think that might be important here? That you know what I want so you can get me what I'm looking for? And and I, and he goes, well, yeah. I go, well, how would you know what I want? He goes, I don't know. I go, well, maybe ask me. What am I looking for? And then he goes, oh. I go, well, try it. Well, what are you looking for? Well, here's what I'm looking for. And it's like, oh, now we can have a decent conversation. But the point there is most people just present. They just roll through it. Rapport and relationship, presentation, overcoming objection, and close. It's just, there's just not enough connection, not enough, like Chuck's illustration. You're asking, you're understanding. You go, oh, okay. And the same guy, I'm sure, back to the category of stuff we're talking about here is when you call and you go, hey, here's what I'm doing, and then he goes, just send info, and you go, yeah, yeah, I can do that. Hey, let me ask you, this guy selling the phone system would have just sent the information and would not have pivoted like Chuck did, because he knows, like, if you anticipate, if you anticipate everybody saying that. Of course they're going to say that. That's what people do. They don't want to talk to you. They want to blow it off, and they want to do whatever it is they're doing. Go back to playing solitaire online. I don't know. You know, I don't know. Whatever their worthless day, I shouldn't say that, but whatever they're doing, they want to get back to that. But you can call and show up and have a good conversation, and something that ends up being mutually, like, really good for both of you. If you just anticipate what's probably going to happen, watch what's going on, observe, and know where you want to take this. You always have
Hmm.
to know where you want to take it. Where do I want to go with this?
And it
Before you
builds
start the
respect.
call, where is it they want to go? When it's all said and done, what do I want to have happened? And now when I start, so most people just pick up the phone and they don't know. I don't know. I'm probably going to send info, maybe have a con. Now I know that we're going to have a conversation, and
Well, it builds respect. Like when people respect you,
yeah.
they want to do business with you. If you're just a yes man and you'll just, oh, I'll just send information and not inquire any deeper than that, then they don't have much because it's kind of like if you were, what was that show we were talking years ago, your dad and I, or John and I, were about like, hey, we should go on Amazing Race, because we can figure out a lot of stuff. We figured out a lot of stuff along the way. That's
Oh
a
man, we could win that show.
I
We
think we
can,
could, right? But that's a respect issue. It's like I know that if
I
I'm
think
walking
so.
down a dark alley, if I have a choice, John's going to be with me, right? Because I know that I respect. I respect that. And that's what I want your clients or your refers to know. It's like Ian's fun, but Ian means business. You have to mean business. And meaning business isn't just folding like a house of cards just because they ask you to send them information. It's like, hey, this guy's like legit or this woman's legit. They mean business. That's who I trust to do business with. You just can't roll over. It's just not a. And some people are intimidated by that. So you got to tone it back a little bit. Some people really appreciate that. And this is where you'll learn to recognize where you can go with people. And then it just goes in your mental banks. And next time you're on the phone with someone, you learn, yeah, sometimes you get your hand snapped. They'll be, push that a little too far. No problem. Hey, you gracefully step back. It's what it is because you have to mean business and they will respect that. Just folding and sending information, then they think they can, and I don't mean this like in a negative way, really. It's like, oh, I can control that whole thing. No, no, no. This is a mutual control. We mutually respect each other. We're getting things done. You don't push me, I don't push you. We just get things done. You know what I'm saying, if that makes sense? Because if they respect you,
Hmm.
they'll buy from you. If they don't respect you,
Hmm.
they'll just 80. What's he going to do with your information? Okay, my guess is you're going to email it to him. So what is he going to just save that or in his
Hmm.
desktop somewhere or his files, or is he just going to go, I don't know, let me find the email from this kid that I talked to. He wasn't real good, but he sent me information. I'll find it somewhere in here. What was his name
Hmm.
again? No, but when you start drilling down and asking questions, they're going to remember you like, this guy's legit. Okay, yeah, this guy means business. And that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, you establish your legitimacy, your value, and they do respect that,
Hmm.
and I don't know if they consciously, but Chuck brought up something too, like a couple things a while back in the conversation too. It's like, well, what's the follow-up call? If you just send info, hey, get the info, that's all you can
Hmm.
ask. Yeah, I did. Hey, thanks. See ya. Okay. Uh, did it make sense? Yeah, it did. I'll call you if I need you. There you get manhandled on the second call, if
Yeah.
you were a pussy on the first call.
Hmm.
Yep. And it sucks. That life sucks. It does. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
that just kind of sucks.
Yeah, you got to be on it. Even if, and different people go about this different ways, right? Everybody, kind of has their own little, like Chuck's used linear. If you're a linear person, then draw out the path that you're going to drag them down. Okay,
Hmm.
I want to cover these things. All right. What I get here, I go, hey, da da da. You can script it out. You can play it to yourself. You should. record it. Oh, okay, da 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 da. And then when you go live, you've already said it a bunch of times. You said it so it sounds good to you. Now put it
Mm-hmm.
in play and record the conversation, and then you go, okay, how I did that in a vacuum doesn't quite work exactly the same in real life. I need to adapt it. I need to say it this way. I need to ask a little different question. I need to speed it up, slow it down. Whatever the ask it differently at a different point.
Hmm.
Adapt it, and you will find the combination uh, of how it works. It's like you ever see that little video I've done where I unlock the bike lock without knowing
Yeah.
the combination? I don't know what the combination is, and I close my eyes and I'm turning the tumblers and I can feel the resistance. I can feel things coming loose. I can feel and hear clicks. That's how these conversations go. You do not know the combination, and they're not going to tell you up front. Here's what it
No,
takes. Here's the combination is 1, 2, 3, 4. They don't tell you that stuff. You have
no.
to feel your way and understand what you're feeling along the way and adjust.
But you can only feel
And then it
if you're like,
unlocks and you go, oh,
but you can only feel if you're like the only thing. I think if you're going to be on the phone in the beginning, they should put blinders on you because you should be or sit back and close your eyes and like really hear it because it's amazing when you really
yeah,
hear it what you can pick up and in fluctuation and then you start like thinking about the words that they're using. Countless times you can you're on the phone with someone, right, and you can describe exactly what they're doing. Dude, you're in your chair, you got your feet kicked up, you're not engaged in this. Or you hear them doing things in the background.
yeah,
When I hear them doing things in
yeah.
the background, then I need to
Hmm.
jar them out of that somehow, right? I need to do something to bring them back. I need to grab their attention, and maybe I'll
Hmm.
say something completely off the wall and they go, and you just can envision how they're like, what did you say? Oh, yeah, now I got you. Now I got your attention,
What?
right? So but that comes with time and experience and wisdom. You'll see that because hey, I can't. Because talking to someone on the phone when they're not engaged, you may as well just you're not doing anything for yourself. You must keep them engaged. The only way you can keep them
Hmm.
engaged is by asking them questions. If you're just talking, they're not engaged.
Right,
Hmm.
right. Because that, yeah,
It's so easy, dude.
yeah.
It is like it's so
Hmm.
That's a
easy.
big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yeah,
It's so
it
simple.
is. It is easy.
Yeah, you just do it. You're like, oh, okay. But here, and I know John's mentioned this before, is that it can't be about you and what you're. I understand that no one in the world cares how Chuck Fowler's feeling today, and I mean that in a sales process. No one cares how I'm feeling. They're caring about what
No,
I
you're
can do.
right.
Well, I know that. I mean, I'm used to that, but you guys have people that care for you. Um, but they don't care, dude. They don't care. It's just like, okay. So I don't talk about myself unless it's poignant, like if there's a point to be made that and they're really engaged with me. Otherwise, it's all about them. It's all about them. That's it. It's just about them. And if you keep it about
Hmm.
them, they'll buy, but then there's the other side of that. When you're out there and you're talking about, and you're talking them into doing business with you, you better deliver. You must deliver because the quickest thing to
Hmm.
ruin a reputation is over promise and under deliver. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Okay. It does, yeah. Okay.
Did you ever? Here's an interesting kind of side point about one of the things Chuck just said is that they don't really care. It's not about you when you have the conversation. When you're having a conversation with somebody, the more you talk about yourself, the less they are interested in the conversation. But notice when you're having a conversation with almost anybody today, when you go, oh, when you do say something about yourself, they'll immediately come back and tell you about themselves.
Hmm.
It's an interesting, they people really, so they hear what you're saying, and and then they don't really care about that. What they want to do is tell you about themselves.
Hmm.
And I know this is sort of out of context and what we're talking about, but it's not. But if you just observe, just lay it out there. Just be on the watch for people who want to talk about themselves, and you'll hear it almost every conversation. That, like, you just bring something up, and it's, I've been observing that more recently. It's really people, they that it almost doesn't matter what you say, they'll tell you a story about themselves that are sort of similar immediately following, and they probably don't even remember what you told them. So it's interesting. So back to what Chuck was saying, it's not about you. They do not care about you. They care a lot about themselves. And so if you tell, they don't care what you're saying. If you ask, they do. And also in, like, neuroscience, if you're asking questions, their brain is like, hey, I need to pay attention because he's asking questions. And they still will fade away when you start talking. And so you can't talk long. Uh, and so you have to keep them engaged and on the right track by asking them questions. It's again how you lead conversations, right? So the best conversationalists rule the world. So,
Yep,
you know, just
100%.
practice asking questions, listening, and then being in tune, and anticipate what they're going to have as an answer, so that you know what to do from there. Because if they
Hmm.
tell you, you go, yeah, you're losing me again.
Yeah,
You need to go, oh
brevity's
yeah,
brevity's best.
that makes
Like,
sense. Hey, let me ask you, da 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 da. And now they're talking again.
yeah,
Your transitions is what we call them. They have to be anticipated and quick. Oh, that makes sense. What, have you ever done this, or do you do
right.
this, or what happens when that happens? You can't him and ha and formulate your, yeah. All these conversations, you know. You, and granted, you're better at anticipating after you've done a bunch, but that's why you do a bunch, and you pay attention up front so you can get better, quicker, faster, and you adapt, and pretty soon you're really good.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, the other people that don't do it don't get good that fast. They just kind of always are mediocre, and they don't get free, and they don't understand. Well, because you didn't,
We didn't
and
do
you
it.
don't
Yeah.
have to be fantastic. I'll go back to Shucka's really good, but you can be. Yeah, I don't think it can be mediocre. I think you have to be a little better than mediocre, but you don't have to be brilliant. You just have to be better than average. It's like, I think also, like, when you show up somewhere, you want to be a half step above. I don't want to show up somewhere looking a half step below people, because then I look grungy. I want to look maybe a half step above. I don't want to be average, and I don't want to be below average. In my conversations, I don't want to be below average, and I don't want to be average. Average is boring. Everybody sounds the same. I want to be half step above, but not a circus act.
Hmm.
That's, I
Hmm.
don't want to, what I mean? And
Yeah.
so you don't have to be the best in the world at this. You just have to be a half step better than average, and you can, and as long as you do enough of it, make the right connections, and run the system right, you'll get free. That's it.
That's what it's all about.